now we're starting to see dramatic changes. We've done numerous brain scans to show that you can change your brain in 4 days for the better. 80% of 1,000 people had a more than 90% change in their brain for the better just by practicing meditation. We know that you can train your heart to work more coherently. That means that when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're impatient, your heart beats out of rhythm. That's how powerful you are. And it really suppresses certain genes. So then change your emotional state. Wow, you start to see people practicing this kind of regulations. We have evidence that people can do that. We have evidence you can change your genes in 4 days. You can change your gene expression. You can make your immune system stronger by changing your emotional state. You can lengthen your life with just 60 days of meditation, 5 days a week. We've proven that you can lengthen your telomeres. So now you have evidence that common people can do the uncommon. You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to be a nun. You don't have to be a priest, an academic. The common people are beginning to wrap their minds around this and do the uncommon.
There's evidence. This isn't just mystical information.
So there it is. Science is that model. And then we have testimony. Like we have people that have healed themselves of stage 4 cancer, not once, not twice, not 3 times, and 4 times, over and over again. We have people that have healed themselves that were blind, that were deaf, that had tumors, that had Graves' disease, Hashimoto's syndrome, numerous Parkinson's patients, brain injuries, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, rare genetic disorders.
This is the stuff Jesus was doing back in the day. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, is like curing blindness and stuff.
Well, no, if anybody is surprised, I have to tell you that it's me. I never thought I would see these kind of changes. Now you have evidence. You have evidence right now in testimony. So now evidence becomes the loudest voice, right? Yeah. So doctors now are saying, hey, you're not really responding to treatment. Why don't you try this? Now let me tell you why they're saying that. And that's because if you say, try this, and you see the evidence of people getting better, and the person's not responding to treatment, what else do you have? And doctors are now referring, oncologists are referring patients right to our office, right to our events, because it's an option for them. So then you have 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. Stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. The stress response is what your body innately does to return it back to order. All organisms can tolerate short-term stress. But the chronic stress is what pushes the genetic buttons that create disease. Now, most stress ends up as emotional or psychological stress. So physical stress, trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. Chemical stress, toxins, pesticides, pollutants, bacteria, viruses, molds, hangovers. And then you have emotional stress, family tragedies, second mortgages, single parenting, 401ks, traffic, whatever. And all of those things knock the brain and body out of homeostasis. But the emotional stress is the challenge, because the person can be taking care of their body, eating all the right foods, taking all the drugs, taking all the right vitamins, all the enzymes, doing the things, doing yoga, doing long distance running, whatever it is that they're into. But if they're living in constant fear because of some threat in their outer world that's either real or imagined, or they're so mismanaging of their thoughts that those thoughts keep producing the fear, so they're turning on that stress response by thought alone, then they could eat the most organic, healthy diet, do all the right exercise, but the body's living in survival because that's stress. So now you're mobilizing all this energy for some threat in your outer world. And there's no energy in your inner world for growth and repair. And so your body is actually utilizing all of its vital resources when it's feeling fear, when it's feeling aggression or anger, when it's feeling pain and suffering. The body is mobilizing enormous amounts of resources. If you're being chased by a tiger, you're not going to use 20% of your resources. You're going to go all in, right? So then what if it's not a tiger? What if it's just traffic? So what was once highly adaptive becomes very maladaptive. And you turn on the stress response and you can't turn it off. Now you're headed for disease.
So how does this, I want to talk about DNA. And there's all kinds of stuff, and I'm learning about this stuff as I listen to you and various different people like you that talk about all these amazing things. But DNA, like, are we changing our DNA? Are we capable of changing our DNA?
Well, your body is a protein-producing machine. Muscle cells make muscle proteins called actin and myosin.
Do we need to eat protein, by the way? That's always something I wonder whether or not we really do. Okay.
Skin cells make skin proteins called collagen and elastin. Your immune system makes immune proteins called immunoglobulins or antibodies. Your stomach cells make stomach proteins called enzymes. Your eye cells make eye proteins called keratin. So the body's a protein-producing machine. Every cell in your body, Danica, makes a protein except for red blood cells. And in order for a cell to make a protein, a gene has to be signaled. So this is a genes create disease. Less than 1% of the people on the planet are born with genetic conditions like type 1 diabetes, Tay-Sachs disease. The other 95 to 99%.
People want to hear that and people don't want to hear that.
Of course not, because that means you can't be a victim.
Accountability.
You can't be a victim, right?
Exactly.
So 95 to 99% are created from lifestyle. You can take two identical twins, same exact gene expression, same exact genome. One dies at 55, the other one dies at 81. Why? They're in a different environment, or their perception of the environment. Right. So now it's not the gene is a parts list of possibilities.
Right.
So now, here's the point. If a person is perceiving the environment or in an environment where they're constantly living in fear, or anxiety, or anger, or aggression, or frustration, then it makes sense then that those emotions would influence certain thoughts. And certain thoughts would make certain feelings or certain emotions. Well, if you're living by the same emotions every single day, it's the environment that signals the gene. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. So your body is objective. If you're living in fear, whether there's any fearful conditions in your environment, your body's believing it's in an environment where it needs to feel fear. So then the person then keeps signaling the same gene because they're feeling the same emotion. They're responding to the same environmental condition. They're signaling the same gene. You keep making the same protein. You keep signaling the same gene over time. It's like taking a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. All of a sudden, the body starts making a cheaper protein. The gene down-regulates, and now the body's moving out of balance. So then, here's the question. If you're thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, creating the same experiences that produce the same emotions, and then those same emotions influence your very same thoughts, then your biology, your neurocircuitry, your neurochemistry, your hormones, and your gene expression is going to be equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. I love that.
I love that.
So if you're going to change your life, change your personal reality, you got to change your personality. You got to start changing your thoughts. You got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and say, do I really want to think this? You become the shepherd of your thoughts, the gardener of your own mind. You start to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and say, my goodness, how am I speaking? How am I acting? You start looking at emotions that you live by every day and say, my goodness, I didn't even know it was guilt. It just feels like me. Or lack. And now the person's becoming conscious of their unconscious part of themselves. And the more conscious we become of the unconscious self, the less unconscious we go during the day. So it begs the question, new thoughts that lead to new choices that lead to new behaviors create new experiences produce new emotions are the information coming from the environment, they signal new genes and there's evolution. So now we upregulate the gene, you start making a healthy protein. The immune system starts upregulating and all of a sudden it makes new antibodies. Why? Because the body's back in growth and repair and out of survival. So we did a research study for 4.5 days. We took 35 randomly selected people, and we measured 7,500 different gene regulations. And all we want them to do is to think differently, make new choices, do different things, have new experiences, and feel new emotions. And we wanted to see in the end of 4.5 days if they were able to change their gene expression. And they had 8 genes in common. All of them shared the same gene expression of these 8 genes. 2 genes that suppress cancer growth and tumors. Genes that grow new neurons in your brain, not just make new connections, but grow new neurons. Genes that stimulate stem cells to go to damaged tissues that are dying and breaking down and repair them. Genes for oxidative balance, anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke.
They all had all the same ones?
These were the 8 they had in common, but there were other ones, that were great ones as well, but these 8 were the common ones. And genes to strengthen the cellular structure, the microtubules of the cell. Now, Genes are like Christmas tree lights. They're turning on and off all the time. But if you're doing the same things, feeling the same emotions, thinking the same thoughts, you got the same lights on and the other lights off. And over time, you start signaling the very gene that's on the surface of your genetic propensity. And now you're headed in that direction. So then, is it possible then, when you change your emotional state, will you change your gene expression? And the answer is absolutely, that you are your own genetic engineer. Now, it may take some time for certain people.
So is gene expression different than changing your genes and actually...
Yeah, exactly.
Can you actually reprogram your DNA? Can you change your genes? Can you alter?
You can alter your gene expression. Now here's an example. If your body's a protein-producing machine, you have 100,000 different proteins that make up your body. So you should have 100,000 genes for every one of those proteins.
Okay.
You have 40,000 what's called regulatory proteins that help make those. So now you should have 40 more genes. You should have 140,000 genes for 140,000 proteins. And when they mapped the human genome, they were so surprised that we only express 23,688 genes. So how's that possible? Because on one gene, you can have several variations of how the gene is expressing itself. So genes are always moving and mobile.